Hey, what's up, guys? It's Mike. I'm trying a new thing today where I'm actually going to set up my own YouTube everything and give you guys a sneak peek into my life behind the scenes. So right now, I'm actually in the runner, leaving the house and headed to work. So yeah, I hope you guys like this. This is my first time doing it, my first video vlog. I don't even know where the camera little hole is. I'm like looking at the side of it. But yeah, I'll try to make this as interactive and as cool as possible to make sure you're not bored as shit. So here we go. Every morning I got a few routines that I do, that you can instill in your habits. Number one, I've been getting on this black tea kick. So I've been drinking black tea, and it's honestly helped me out a lot because I think coffee just gets me jacked up. It's like a high spike, but it makes me feel like crap afterwards because you crash off. So I've been doing black tea, green tea, which I didn't even realize it, but green tea's got more caffeine than black tea. I've been doing green tea, and I do that in the morning, and I try to listen to a podcast if I have time. Like on the ride right now, I got a 40-minute commute to Philcraft's HQ. I would typically put on a good podcast. My favorite podcasts are the Joe Rogan podcast when he has an intellectual on. I'm not really a big fan of the fighters and the nothing against fighters. I just don't like to hear them talk unless it's Tim Kennedy. And also, I really like the scientists he puts on. But I'm not a big fan also of listening to comedians talk. He's big about comedians, obviously, because he's a comedian. So the Joe Rogan podcast is a good one. Also a good one is the Philcraft Survival podcast, if you haven't listened to it. What else? Tim Ferriss's podcast, I like it. Although I've kind of burned out from Tim Ferriss's podcast. He does have a lot of good, what we call subject matter experts on this podcast. So it's really good. Who else? I think that's pretty much it. I used to listen to Gary Vee's podcast, but man, you could only take so much of Gary Vee at a time. It's like coffee. You get you all pumped up, but then afterwards you're like, geez. And he kind of sends the same message. If you haven't listened to Gary Vee, I recommend listening to him, reading his book, checking him out. But he's got a short lifespan. Probably like me. Probably like at this point where you're like, dude, I'm tired of hearing this dude run his mouth. So also on the way to work, or prior to going to work, what I do is I do a lot of the marketing for Philcraft Survival. And so a lot of my time spent coming up with strategies for marketing, because marketing changes all the time. If you're a social media marketer or you have your own little small business and you're not marketing on social media, it's a huge mistake. But one of the things I've realized is that social media marketing is you have to stay fluid. You have to stay on top of all the things that are taking place on a daily basis. Obviously me and Kurt, we run Philcraft Survival, and our mission has always been to give information, training, education, mindset, also equipment, and consulting, whether that's for themselves or an institution, to better prepare themselves for survival. And we don't want to fear monger. I don't want to go out and go, hey, you're going to get potentially in a man-made catastrophe or a bad situation with another person, and if you're not prepared, you're going to die. But I mean, that's kind of a reality we live in. But we're not just talking about man-made stuff. I mean, we're talking about car accidents, talking about natural disasters. And, so what we found is often in social media, there's a lot of things that set trends. But I kind of want to capitalize on those popular trends that are counterproductive and redirect people into paying attention to what is important. I mean, Colin K, all these athletes and actors and actresses that, snatch the headline news away from soldiers, sailors, Marines, or airmen who are getting killed overseas, or significant things happening in history, science, and technology. That's the important stuff. And who the hell am I to dictate what the world gets? But I'll try my best to influence the masses, which I mean by masses, I mean the few people who pay attention to us. Also, we want to be positive. There's too much toxic crap in the world. I've dealt with that. I used to deal with that on a daily basis, but there's a lot of toxicity in the world and a lot of negative people. So one of the things that I'm adamant about from everybody in Fieldcraft and for myself, which I have to will myself in every once in a while. What was this I just did? That was weird. I need to make sure that I keep us positive, because the message I want to send, it has to be positive. And even if it's a false sense of security, a positive outlook and mindset is what's going to make you more resilient. So anyways, I focus on social media. I focus on my tasks for the day, and I make a checklist. A lot of the times I get sidetracked and sidebar distracted with a whole bunch of stuff that really doesn't pertain to my job. It's frustrating sometimes, because sometimes I hate it, but sometimes it's necessary. So how do I manage it? We kind of joke about it, me and Kurt, that we have TBI, but I'm pretty sure we do. I'm pretty sure my short-term memory, which, could be related to age, I'm pretty sure it's been accelerated by war. So I try my best to list out everything, by priority, and then get them accomplished one at a time. What I've seen in business and life since the military is typically when you have a military task, it's a set objective, and it's pretty cut and dry. In the civilian world, it's not really like that. Because let's say you're trying to get a dealer account. Well, the dealer account isn't, you just call them, you get a dealer account, and that's it. Sometimes you run into things where you're like building relationships, you're waiting on paperwork. So then that task you were going to knock out as a short-term task is now becoming a long-term task, and it bogs you down. So then you imagine that stuff starts to stack, and before you know it, you're sucking, you're overwhelmed, and your task saturated. Anyways, enough about social media. We had a really cool course, Gunfighter Carbine Level 1, which is our basic course, which teaches the fundamentals of what you would do in a gunfight and how to train yourself, and also Gunfighter Level 2. A lot of people get excited about Level 2, because when I mean excited, I mean they get intimidated, because they think somehow they're not prepared for Level 2. Level 2 is just the advancement of the environment, and we talk about that a lot, me and Kurt do, where there's nothing really advanced in all these fundamentals of gunfighting and marksmanship and everything else. They're actually pretty easy processes, because they're typically natural, like adjusting your field of view and your vision to pick up the front sight. So it's not really hard stuff. The advancement of that basic stuff is putting it in more complex environments. So if I take those basic skill sets, like let's say it's marksmanship. Let's say I tell you to shoot a 25-meter bull. Well, if I tell you to shoot a 25-meter bull, and I put you inside of a vehicle and tell you to shoot a 25-meter bull, it's more difficult, because you have to do more thinking. You have to adjust your eyes accordingly. You have to grip. You have to stay calmer, because you don't want to flinch, because there's a lot of concussion off the glass and everything else. So it's more difficult. Well, stress and the environment are the additional, I'll call them benefactors, because it's just it is what it is. It's going to happen in order to manage a gunfight. So you just don't need to concentrate your efforts on the static elements of fundamentals of gunfighting or marksmanship and everything else. yeah, there's a time to isolate those skill sets because they're really technical. Learn them, get really good at them, master them. And then the ultimate test, obviously, is, hey, can you survive that stuff in a under stress and in advanced environments, which not really advanced. I mean, shit, shooting a vehicle or shooting a gun out of my vehicle from the inside, it's not really advanced. I mean, I would say running down the aisle of a 747 trying to do a hostage rescue, that's advanced. That's why we train the best operators in the world to do that. But kind of the scenarios and situations we see ourselves in, it's not that complex. Anyways, we did that. Typically we do that in series. We've been asked a lot to do it all over the place, and we will. I think it's important. You know, one of the other habits I have too is when I'm going to work, I'm thinking about innovating the future, new things that we could do. Like this morning, I'm going into work and I'm going to change some of the membership stuff for the tribe. I want them to get a good value out of it. I always want to keep evolving the tribe. If you don't know what the tribe is a membership program we have. It's a paid-in membership where you pay for a year and you get, you know, content. You get to be on the Facebook private page where we network. We're going to start doing webinars, for example, once a month. That will happen. We also are going to do every Friday, give you shooting drills to take into your weekend. In addition to that, you're going to save 15% off all the stuff that we're doing, whether it's courses or swag or equipment. And then your second year, if you renew, you'll save 25%, which is a big discount, I mean, in our world. So anyways, I'm thinking about mindset. I'm thinking about innovation. I'm thinking about the future. I always want to take this company to the next level. And so a couple of those things that I'm thinking about are, you know, medical kits. I'm not the maker of medical kits because I'll never be. It's like being the master trainer of medical trauma. I'll never be that guy. I've put on tourniquets on people in real life. I've actually stuffed wounds in real life, gunshot wounds. I've done a lot of medical stuff, but I'm nowhere near the skill set or level that some of these guys like 18 Deltas or Special Forces medics, PJs, paramedics, EMTs, I'm not at their level because they have the skill set and they've exercised the application in real life. So they have a lot of lessons learned and understanding that I don't have. So I'm going to resource that. And one of the companies that we work with, North American Rescue, which makes the cat tourniquet, is a real good resource for all that in training and equipment. So what I thought was, you know, how can I provide equipment training to our end consumer? Because I mean, we're in the preparedness realm. If you're in the preparedness or survival realm, and you're not talking about medical anything, you're probably making a mistake. Because the likelihood is, I have a higher probability of getting a vehicle accident doing this vlog than I do of getting in a gunfight. So that trauma training and equipment applies to your everyday life and accidents. You know, trauma in the outdoors. You know, trauma in high-risk activities. Like, why don't you guys tell me my light was on? I know that a lot of you guys are like, that light's on. Trauma in the outdoors. Trauma in high-risk activities. So if North American Rescue makes the equipment and I make the way to carry that equipment and the market in which to tell the story, then that's a good deal. And so that's what we're doing here in the future to innovate. I mean, I want to have kits that are set up to be able to contain trauma kits. Like I see hunters all the time and they're doing their hunting thing and they have their trauma kits in their ruck or their med bags in their ruck. Just like I was doing in special operations, I always kept my tourniquet on my body. And so you want to do that because you want quick access right when the trauma happens. You don't want to have to get displaced from your ruck or have to go through the motions of taking off your ruck and dig through your bag and unzip the med bag and then get to a tourniquet. You want your tourniquet readily accessible. So those are some of the things that we're working on now, is in hunting and outdoors, med kits. We released a vehicle trauma kit specifically made for trauma and accidents. The enhanced critical response kit, which is made for mass casualties, your family and yourself. So it's a big, more robust package. And we're rolling out the equipment with the anticipation that we're going to roll out the training as well. Yeah, we're real busy. So I'm driving in Prescott. Someone call it Prescott. And I'm in the runner. I just broke 86,500 miles in this runner. That's a lot of miles. A lot of miles. If you're interested, part of the stuff that we do, fieldcraftmobility.com, we actually have a lifestyle website that has similar stuff to what we're doing. But I made that website because I want to attract a lot of people who aren't interested in guns, because I think it's all important. You might not be a gun person, but you might be a med person. And if you're a med person and you want to get more into it, or survival person, then that's okay. I'm not trying to cram weapons down your throat. I don't want people to combat people to convince them to get into everyday carry into weapons and protecting themselves. So we have that. In mobility, we recommend what type of rigs to have. And this runner, I have a 2016 trail. Dude, I've done more overlanding and off-roading in this runner than I have any other vehicle. So this 86,500 miles, there's some hard miles. I have the 2016 trail that has lockers. It has the rock crawl. I'm sorry, it's not the rock crawl feature. It's called the crawl feature, which is basically, I believe, how it articulates and moves the torque where it needs to go, and modulates the brakes to get you out of specific instances where four-wheel drive, you got lockers in and you can't go anywhere. Also, this one, obviously, I just said it, it's four-wheel drive. That's one of the important characteristics of an overland rig that I believe you should have. I've seen a lot of all-wheel drive vehicles like Audis, even Subarus. Those are good vehicles. It's better than having nothing. It's better than having front-wheel drive and needing to depend on the all-wheel drive in a snowstorm. It's not just to J-turn and to get out of a disaster that involves a person. I'm just talking about natural elements. I'm talking about you're on the highway, which I've done before, and it's jam-packed and it's gridlock and you can't figure out why. And so you don't know why. Is it because there's an accident? Is it because there's somebody, I don't know, worst case scenario, shooting people walking down the line, which has happened at the CIA headquarters in Langley, Virginia? And if you're stopped, what are your options? Well, if you have a two-wheel drive vehicle and you live, or you're surrounded by rural, trails like you are often in Arizona, well, you may not have any other options. Well, in my runner, I can hop a curb, I can get off the highway, and I can take a alternate trail or road, or hell, just drive on the side of the road. But I can do so more reliably with four-wheel drive. The other things, like I carry, see how easy that was to get this? I mean, survival and med off our EDM go bag. I mean, come on. If you're in a vehicle accident, let's be real. Do you really want to depend on EMT and paramedics to save your life? Maybe the answer would be, well, I'm not trained, Mike. Well, I'm not equipped. Well, we have equipment and we have the outlets for training. And if we don't have the answer, we could resource the answer. So it's like, why not? Why would you depend on a first responder to save your life? Another example of that would be, hey, you're in a situation where you're in a self-defense situation, defend yourself in your home. Are you going to button up the hatches and wait for first responders to come and rescue you? Or are you going to defend your family and your own life? I would think you would be independent enough smart enough to defend your own life. And so that's what we're trying to push, is this self-reliance. And nothing against first responders, but the average time that we put out, which is our understanding, is about 12 minutes of time for a first responder to respond to you and save your ass. And the average time of an active shooting in America is about 12 minutes. So you do the math. Compromise your femoral artery in a vehicle accident, you got minutes to live. You're in the backwoods and have major trauma. Yeah, don't count on first responders being there. When you get cell phone reception, maybe you could figure it out. So yeah, self-reliance is the key. I'm gonna turn this camera around. I want you to see this, guys, and I'll let you guys go. Okay, turn it around. Let's see. Oh yeah, here we go.